This week in disc golf left me, well, confused. We had questionable announcements,
dynamic discs,
questionable layups, questionable social media posts, and of course, questionable umbrella locations. And listen, we can all be confused together, or we can try to get down to the bottom of this one question at a time. Jokes aside, the disc golf world left us this week with an amazing tournament, another too close for comfort finish, and some interesting topics to discuss. Let's see if we can make some sense of all of this together. But first, I'm Mason with Heiserflight, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoy this type of content, it would mean a ton if you subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get into it. Before I dive into the finer details of the tournament itself, I have an obligation to get carried away talking about Smuggler's Notch. I think it might have been because of our week spent in Kansas, but contrast Emporia Country Club against the courses in Vermont, and I'm sorry, there is no debate to be had. And listen, I don't hate disc golf on the plains. That's where I live, and I love my local courses, but there is no contest. Disc golf in the northern Appalachians in the onset of fall is disc golf done right. I think that course aesthetics is a criminally under-talked about aspect of our sport in the Pro Tour. The clean, staked out of bounds, the footbridges through high meadows and landing zones surrounded by wildflowers make for a place of disc golf dreams, and it's one of the reasons I love this event so much in particular. It reminds me of like a very Scandinavian style course, if that makes any sense. Maybe that's why a Finn and a Swede both finish in the top 10, but probably not. I also just love the two course dynamics that this property presents. As far as wooded courses on the Pro Tour go, I think that Northwood Black is probably my favorite, but Brewster Ridge has to be right up there in the top 3. It presents a level of technicality that I quite frankly think the highest level of disc golf needs more of. One thing that was mentioned on live coverage was the disc selection in Brewster. There was a sentiment that many pros were happy to be throwing mid-ranges again, which is kind of a fading art apart from players like Isaac Robinson who sort of embraced this style. I think that a perfect course requires almost every shot in the bag, and the soft turning mid-range throw through a tree-lined fairway is no exception. And to me, Fox Run Meadows is OB heavy disc golf done right. If our sport is going to be trending towards more open courses that allow for more spectators, that's fine, but Fox Run is the way it should be done. This track requires specific shots to specific landing zones, some of which really don't allow you the option to lay up. You have to go for the green or die trying, which I really like. I love that there's still some technical holes that dip into the woods to mix up the flow of the round. That is how it should be done. Needless to say, Worlds next year will be insane, with hopefully more excitement and less umbrellas. Turning to the tournament itself, despite the ridiculous ending and a few highlight throws, I think it was one of the more tame tournaments in terms of excitement down the stretch. But that also just goes to show how amazing some of our tournaments have been this year. Ricky Wysocki has done it again, firmly taking his place as your Pro Tour points leader and bouncing back from a disappointing World Championship. Here's your former Green Mountain champions, and here's Ricky Wysocki. His win is as impressive as it is unsurprising. As unsurprising as Ricky's 85% scramble rate, despite finishing the tournament with one of the highest out-of-bound rates in the field. He also putted over 50% from Circle 2, the best in the field. I'm so glad to be back on courses where putting holds the kind of weight that it did this weekend. We'll look at some of the key holes that shifted the momentum of the tournament, but first, there's a few other players worthy of mention for their place in the story that was the Green Mountain Championship. There is no other person I get more excited to watch play disc golf right now than Isaac Robinson. He throws backhand with only putters and mids like he's playing disc golf in the 90s, but he putts like he's from the future. I would love to see a disc golf channel that focuses on form do some sort of breakdown on the way that Isaac Robinson putts. I have never seen such efficient form from the putting green. I posted this on Reddit the very first day of the tournament, that Isaac Robinson will be a staple leading the field on these wooded courses for years to come, that Idlewild was no fluke. I believe in his talent that much. Isaac also happens to be absolutely running away in the Rookie of the Year race. I'm going to call it now. Isaac will take another podium finish this year at the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. At this point, I'm rooting for no one but Matty O to get a win under their belts this season. That shot on hole 11 was absolutely bonkers. He's been the epitome of consistency, playing some of the best disc golf we've seen this year in both the Woods and the Open, finishing first in strokes gained tee to green at GMC, but unable to snatch that elusive win. Orem has just 2 finishes this year outside of the top 10 in Elite Series or major events. But can he win? Only time will tell. And last, we go to Chris Dickerson. I don't really have a ton to say about Chris except for the fact that he plays some of the most consistent disc golf on the planet. He's an absolute menace in the Woods, shooting the course record at Brewster Ridge in round 3 alongside Alden Harris. At GMC this year, he recovered from a rocky string of finishes and gave himself a chance to win the tournament. Or did he? Let's look back on hole 14 of the final round, where with 5 holes to play, Ricky Wysocki has a 5-stroke lead on the field, and most people, myself included, believe that it was already over. Then Ricky Wysocki hit an umbrella, and he missed a putt and rolled OB, and by hole 17 he was tied with Chris Dickerson. Listen, I'm not going to make this video about Umbrella Gate, besides a joke or two, because really there's nothing to talk about. We don't know what would have happened if what happened didn't happen, right? And what happened shouldn't happen again. That's all there is to it, in my opinion. Hole 17, though, is a different story. Ricky and Chris both got off course with their drives and were faced with an incredibly dangerous downhill putt with Rick's a bit further out, and they both lay it up. I think Chris's especially was the most surprising, with Ricky having to act first and being further away. It made a little more sense. And listen, it's really easy to play armchair quarterback in these situations, but try to put yourself in Chris's shoes with the knowledge of the methodical way that he plays the game and weigh it against the risk versus reward, and to me it seems like a very close decision. It reminded me of another terrifying putt we witnessed recently, and I'll leave it at that. Most of the time when I talk about moments that shifted the course of the tournament, I'll point to the final holes of the final round, but this tournament produced something slightly different in my eyes. Hole 7 in round 2 I think was a really massive shifting of the tides. Paul McBeth had been playing well into this point, but seemed unable of really stringing a nice stretch together, and it looked like he was primed to do so in round 2. Meanwhile, Wysocki was off to a slow start with several OB strokes. Then, the entire card besides Ricky proceeded to implode on hole 7, while Rick carded an easy birdie and rode this momentum through the rest of the round, while Paul continued to play well but was never able to put that hot streak together. Okay, so I don't want to stay very long here, but I'm going to really briefly discuss Ricky's interesting comments about Worlds and the emphasis that's put on this single tournament. Contrary to what many think, I totally see Ricky's point, and I love that players are becoming more vocal about these types of things. They're trying to shape the future of the sport that they love. I think anyone can respect that. We need to evolve disc golf in some ways, but stay unmoving in others. But really, I think this is a topic for the off-season, and I did not like the timing. But that's just me. Some will say it's the perfect timing to discuss this. I'm going to reserve my comments for their own video down the road. The Player of the Year race is still open, but Ricky Wysocki is making a push in this tail end of the season with his decisive win at GMC. We have 3 big events left, some of my favorites of the year, and there's so many names I would love to see get a big win to round out the season. Who do you want to see pick up a win or two to close out 2022? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video. It means so much. There's always more disc golf to play. Until the next one.